Hello, hello, hello. I am Dacia Ruth, and I am the host of the Glow Squad Book Club. I am the founder of Glow Girl World, and I'm coming to you live. Just wrapped up the book, The Battle, Your Battle Belongs to the Lord by Joyce Meyer. I have my book still here. For those that catch the replay, go ahead and comment replay if you're watching the replay. So excited to have you join in. Um, I don't take it for granted that I have almost 3,000 subscribers now on my page, and I know it's in part to you. So, for each and every person that is watching, I'm grateful for you. If you would do me a favor and click the notification bell or leave a comment so that I just know that you watched it, that I know that you were connected in some way. I would love to hear from you and to see how, um, yeah, anything that I do or, you know, anything that's posted on my page that you resonate with, I would love to hear how it's resonating for you because I don't get to talk to people often when they're subscribers. I got a chance to meet one of my subscribers today who came to the book club for the first time. And so I'm grateful for her and shout out to her. I won't call her by name, but she knows who she is if she happens to watch this replay. Love you, sis, and so grateful to meet you tonight. If you too would like to join for a future book club, you can, and I'll talk about that a little later. But I want to get to the meat of things because the reason why I came live tonight is because I wish that you guys were in the room. The Zoom call was amazing. It was amazing. And although I did not record it and I'm not uploading that because I didn't even record it. So there were some very personal things that were shared on that call that will remain on that call. So in the future, when we have a book club meetup, you have to pull up because I'm telling you, when you get in that room, there are things that are said and breakthroughs that are happening, and people are sharing things for the first time, and so we're respecting and sanctifying that space, setting apart that space as is. And so I just want to be respectful of people and where they are. But also I feel like the people that are sharing are in a space where they're really ready to start sharing more openly and revealing so that they can heal. And so I'm celebrating that for them too. And so in future, if people are at a point where they're like, hey, I can say this and and I'm okay with saying what it is, then we'll make space for that too. But I want to just acknowledge people for where they are. Not everybody's in that space just yet. It takes time to get there. So don't knock yourself if you still have some areas where you're still growing in that. But I wanted to come on here and share some of the takeaways from the book Your Battles Belong to the Lord by Joyce Meyer. I also want to talk about briefly, so this will be fairly brief, but just want to share out some of the takeaways that we've gotten throughout the month as we've covered this book. But also, I want to talk about how what we can glean. We talked a lot about in this tonight's session. And for those that are watching, if you could comment and let me know that you're watching, I'd love to just know who's in the building or who's with me because this is a live. So talk back to me, please. I'd love to hear see your words come across the screen. I can't hear your voice for real. But one of the things that we talked about first and foremost was the obvious that Joyce Meyer may not have been everybody's first pick. And I say that because there may be somebody that was not necessarily a fan of hers or felt like she may not have been their favorite or whatever the case may be. And that might be the case for any future book that we choose. And so I want to share this as a disclaimer. It's not about the author. It's never about the author. You might write a book in the future. And I pray that you do. I pray that you do. But you might write a book in the future and somebody might judge you because you don't represent what they think you should represent in terms of who God is and what he's about. And but you might have something really, really meaningful to say because God gave it to you. And who's to say that we shouldn't respect and honor everybody in that same way? That even if we don't agree with everything that they say, perhaps God used them to give them something to say that is of good use. And if it's good and is for good, if it's not something evil or wicked or bad or manipulative or, you know, erroneous, then could we accept something good even if it was from a person that we didn't necessarily think was our person? Of course you could. So if God can use donkeys to talk, and if God can take a hand, can't see the rest of the body, just a hand, and write a message on a wall, and if God Himself, if He can even allow for rocks to cry out, what makes you think that He's limited in who He can use to speak a word, a thing at any given time with any person? And so I just want us to be encouraged in taking the limits off of God. That's one thing that was talked about amongst several members that attended tonight's conversation, is that they are learning through this process, because they wouldn't have picked up this book otherwise. You know, my audience necessarily weren't immediately drawn to Joyce Meyer, but they found that she had some really amazing things to say. And if we stop judging a book by its cover, literally and figuratively, but if we stop judging people based on who we think they are and just listen to what they have to say, when it's right, it's right. When it's right, it's right. And if it comes from somebody, a political figure, if it comes from, you know, a religious leader, if it comes from, you know, someone that's of a different faith or a different denomination, can I still learn from them, even though they're not a member of my church and they don't dress how I dress, or they don't think exactly how I think, or we don't agree on every single point? Do they still have value? Is there still something of worthiness that, because were they created by God or were they created by me? And so I just want us to start to consider how we might be overly critical and overly judgmental as a people, that we get to start to take off those extra layers of judgment and just start to embrace people for where they are and what they are doing well. And where they're wrong, then they're wrong. And I'm not telling you to accept anything that's wrong. I also want to just make the note that, and we talked about this quite often in the book club, and I want to share it here because I don't think that people understand that a part of the book club means that we're reading the text. And then when we have disagreements with the text, we can highlight that too. This isn't a group think. This isn't an opportunity for us to just emulate everything that we read. We're discerning as we read, and we can say, you know what, when she made this point, or when they made this point, he or she, whatever the author is, because it's not just about this book, but every author that you read, you should be filtering it through your own process to see, okay, where do I align, or where might I, you know, I don't quite understand that point, or I don't agree with that point or perspective. They highlighted this and I see it a different way. That's what we allow in the book club. So we're not here just to emulate any author. That's, we're not glorifying, we're not, you know, necessarily trying to idolize anybody, emulate anybody. We're gleaning from what their experiences are. Joyce Meyer in particular talks about her experiences in sexual abuse. And I think men and women need to be more equipped with understanding perspectives of those who have been sexually abused. Joyce Meyer, in particular, shares how she has been abused by her dad, her father, and how she mentions that she brought it to her mother, and her mother was not receptive to her. And so these are things that we have to get more inclined and acclimated in the church community with, learning about, talking about, and really understanding what to do with these spiritual battles that we're facing. One of the things that Joyce Meyer talked about is how we have to understand that there is a battle to fight. There is a war. There is a war raging. And so if there is a war, soldier, what's up? I need a soldier. Y'all know that Destiny's Child song, right? Am I dating myself? It's cool. It's fine. It is what it is. But in the 90s, or in the early 2000s, Destiny's Child, the revamped, the remixed version of Destiny's Child, they had that song, I Need a Soldier, right? And T.I. came in with his rap. But they wore their fatigues. And in general, fatigue clothing is a sign of that you're ready for battle, right? You're ready to go out into the elements. You're ready to blend in with the elements so that your enemy doesn't pick you off and you get to go ahead and take care of the battle, right? And I think that we're oftentimes not wearing our armor or our army fatigue. We're in the army of the Lord, but we're not dressed for the battle. And we're not even realizing that there is a battle. Come on, raise your hand if at some point you forgot that there was even a battle. So then when the battles come, when the fiery darts come, when the situation comes, then we're thrown off. I'll speak for myself. I'm thrown off at first because I'm like, what is this? Why is this? Where did this come from? God, why didn't you handle this? Why did you give this to me? Why didn't you move this cup? I know Jesus isn't the only one talking about if you would just remove this cup from my lips. Be honest, and you can share in the comments when you're catching the replay. You too you might have felt that same way, where you were asking God, why did I have to go through this? But the reality is, whatever it is that the Lord has for us to go through, it doesn't belong to us. It's not for us to fight. It's not for us to manage. We really have to trust God and take it back to Him and trust that He is going to work it out. So I'm grateful for this book. I know that some people were possibly side-eyeing me about choosing this as a text, but I don't care. I don't care because I know that this book has been really good for those who have um, took the time to not be so judgmental about the book title or the book author and really take it for what it was. I'm going to read a little section from one of the chapters. It's chapter 16. It's towards the end of the book, obviously, chapter 16, and it's entitled Spiritual Warfare, God's Way. And she always has these really good intros. And so even if you don't get through much of the text, it's always every page is like jam packed. And by the way, if you want to order your copy, you can go to my Amazon store. You can go to glowgirlworld.com and you can order your copy of the book. And she has a workbook. I have to grab the workbook, but she has a book and workbook that you can follow along and kind of write out some things. And so sometimes workbooks are helpful to process what you're thinking and feeling. But chapter 16, entitled Spiritual Warfare, God's Way, Part 2, she quotes James 4:7. She's quoting from the ESV version, right? But if that's not the version that you want to read, then girl, go get your version, right? I think we need to stop focusing on where people misalign and just find ways that we do align and start there. So James 4:7 says, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So in our battles that we fight, the first thing that we can do is submit to God and resist the devil and he will flee. So I'm grateful for that. She starts off this chapter saying, the only way to gain victory over the enemy in a spiritual warfare, in a spiritual war, excuse me, is to follow God's directions, not do it in ways we might think would be effective. That's a whole word. Can we follow God in the way that He said, not in a way that we think it should go, in the way that we think is effective? And I just want to leave you with that as you are facing whatever it is that you may be facing, or for somebody that may watch this 10 years from now, because YouTube is really good about capturing all of the things, even, months after you post it, that there might be somebody that may watch this 2 years from now. I don't know when. And maybe you're going to be going through something, maybe even right now as you're listening to me and watching this replay, that you're going through something. I'm speaking to you. As I am a living witness, I know that God is going to work it out for you. I know that it's already worked out for you. because he sees and he knows all. Romans 8:28 shares that all things work together for the good of them that are the called, the chosen according to his purpose and glory. So I'm grateful to God that you are listening to this message, because that means that God wants you to hear it. And he needed you to hear even this very moment, that it's working out for your good. And you don't have to have the answer already figured out. You don't have to know how you're going to get through the trauma. You don't have to know how you're going to manage the sexual abuse that you endured. Just know that God is going to carry you through this thing, one step at a time, one day at a time, maybe one cry session at a time. It might take several. I've cried many tears through some things, but at the end of it all, God is, and he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So seek his face, turn to him, trust him with every single bag and every single burden. And as Matthew 19:26 was highlighted today, with God, all things are possible. And so I leave you with that as you're navigating next steps. If you haven't already and you still want to pick up your copy of Your Battles Belong to the Lord, please do so. If you want to get it from me, I do get credit for all of those who purchase from my Amazon store. You can find the link at glowgirlworld.com. That's GLOGIRL world.com. And you can get the workbook and the book and some of my other books that we've read in the past. And also, I am making the list for 2025. This will conclude the last book club for this year, unless the Lord says so. I might come back in December, but we're gearing up for 2025. And I'm also gearing up for the Restore Her retreat that's happening in September. So this is it for now. We're going to reconvene after the Restore Her retreat. I really like to be able to bring a book to the Restore Her retreat, but we just don't typically have enough time for that. So but if you're interested in learning more about the Restore Her retreat, tickets are on sale. You can go to glowgirlworld.com to get your ticket and to join us on September 12th through the 15th. We have a kickoff mixer on the Thursday, the 12th. And more to come about the hotel and hotel stay and all of that jazz. But it's an exciting phase of our lives. And I'm believing God for bigger this year. This is our third year of the Restore Her retreat, and it's going to be great. It's going to be good. We're going to have a great God time. So I hope that you can make it. And thank you for watching this recap. This has been an amazing book. And I'm grateful for the conversation. And as I shared with somebody who was hesitant about picking up this book gives us language and articulation around things that we're facing so that we can face them with more wisdom and with more armor, so that we don't have to be dismayed when the battle comes. We don't have to be thrown off when Satan and his minions try to do their thing, because we do have an adversary that's seeking whom they can devour like a lion. So if we understand that, and if we're equipped, then we know how to fight. We fight through prayer. We fight through praise. We fight through praise and worship. And praise and worship are different. Praise is adulation or adoration. It's accolades. It's saying, "Oh, you're so amazing," right? And then worship is also just acknowledging who you are and worshiping you for all that you are, and what you're doing. So for me, worship looks like humility and bowing down and lowering myself so that I can lay at your feet, so I can literally worship, like bow down towards you. And so I think that we need both. I think we need to just tell God about how amazing and how great he is. And then we also need to worship at his feet and just humble ourselves and tell him how great he is. Um, and acknowledge him for who he is, and really reverence that he's beyond us and bigger than us. So that's a part of your battle weapons. Ephesians 6 is a huge component. So make sure that you have your battle weapons ready. Make sure that you have your battle weapons ready, and that you have the word of God, right? You're fighting with your sword of the spirit, because the only way to really fight the enemy is to pull out that sword. So I pray that you're doing all that you can in this season to fight the battles that don't belong to us anyway. They only and always belong to the Lord. Thank you so much for watching. If you did watch and you enjoyed something, let me know in the comments what you think it means to fight your battles, and ways in which you too are able to navigate, or a time that you've navigated a tough battle in your life. You never know who might be reading the comments that might need to be blessed by your testimony as well. And as my aunt and mentor always shares, your testimonies belong to the Lord. So not only do your battles belong to the Lord, your victories belong to the Lord too, girls. So tell them about it, or brother, because I have some of my bros that come into that sneak into the building too. It's cool. But tell the Lord, tell everybody about how the Lord delivered when He blesses. And I can't wait to tell the Lord how He blesses me through some of my current battles. And I thank God for all that He's done for my previous ones. So until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. This is all from me. I'm signing off. I just wanted to share a quick recap. Once again, go to glowgirlworld.com to learn more about the Restore Her retreat, about the book clubs. Submit your register so you can submit your book list for 2025. And hopefully I'll see you soon in some capacity. Love you. Take care. Signing off. This is your girl, Dacia Ruth of Glow Girl World. Bye.